Join Nest of Friends as we just like friends, become best of friends on Guest of Friends.
Welcome, guys, gals, non-bine pals, nesties, one and all, near and far, no matter where you are. I am your host, Sketch Williams. Welcome to another episode of the Guest of Friends podcast brought to you by Nest of Friends. Today, we are joined by comedian, podcaster, and content creating maven, Lauren Hope Krass. Round of applause.
Oh my gosh, the crowd goes wild. I'm so delighted to be here with you today. Thank you for having me.
Lauren, it's great to see you. A little bit of backstory, listeners and friends. Lauren is a dear friend from my tenure in New York City. We met during our time at QED OG. I was really excited to hear that it's still going. I heard someone bought it, and
yeah.
Have you had any time there?
I have. Hannah's great. I mean,
awesome.
She's like Cambry but younger and ready to keep it going, you know?
Well, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Lauren, let's talk. We're here to talk about you
and
your journey.
Enough about Hannah.
No. Anyone who is in New York or you're visiting New York, go visit QED Astoria, our old stomping grounds. Definitely. And a lovely venue for creatives and community to find each other. I mean, I will admit it's probably, for me, it was one of the first communities I found outside of my regular life. And I think it helped set me on the path that I'm on. If it weren't for the drink and draws that Cambry and Kristen helped foster that space for, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing with Sketch by Sketch and Nest of Friends out west. So right. I'm very happy to hear that that's still there. But again, Lauren, we're here to talk about you. You're taking over my For You page every post.
Well, in that case, and then so yeah, I'm a comedian, but now I'm known for doing content now, but I still do just as much stand-up. And I have a body positive, wellness, anti-diet, love yourself girl podcast called Belly Laughs on Patreon, which I love. So I don't know, I'm just like a fun time gal who does content and makes people laugh for a living. It's a dream.
I think fun time gal is definitely an apt description. Let's start by maybe winding the clock back. Like, I want to get a sense of like, maybe not baby Lauren, maybe not like teen Lauren, but like, you know, what was like version 1 Lauren in like community? Like, I think comedy sounds like a journey that we've seen you go on. Was there a beginning to that? Was there a seed that planted? Who planted it? Was it self-watered? Like, I want to know a little bit more about you. Like, what's the origin story with you finding your place in the right spaces?
Thank you for asking, Sketch. My journey starts in Charleston, South Carolina in 2011 when I graduated from college. So let's just even skip college. Or do you want to go back to college?
I think
for
you.
How far do you want to go?
Well, for me, there's
I thought of something good with college. Should we do college?
Let's do college, but to kind of help placate the answer a little bit, not placate, but to help explain the answer a little bit, I think it's that moment when you woke up and you realized you weren't alone. Like, either in your journey or creatively or in your pursuits, whatever that means. But if that's college, please take it away.
It is. I won't take more than 30 seconds to tell you that I was very bullied in middle school and high school and had very little friends. And I felt very alone. And so those were dark, dark times. And then in college, at College of Charleston, I discovered 2 groups that I kind of folded into. And one of them was not theater people. Okay, I was a theater major. I dropped down to a minor because they were snobs and they weren't friends with me. I don't know why. I hate it when nerds are snobs. You know what I mean?
Oh, yes.
Like, not to be a hater, but like, you're a fucking nerd. Let me hang out with you. Like, what? Anyways.
Our producer, Jen, is rolling in the couch right now trying to... in agreement.
It annoys me because I don't know. I'm like prissy and feminine, and maybe they thought I was a snob or something, but I would go to their meetups and they just wouldn't talk to me. And so I was like, okay. And so I would like enter these blind read submissions with the theater department and win awards and stuff for playwriting. And so So I was good at it. I just had no community in the theater world at College of Charleston. So that was like a missing piece for me in college. The two places that I did find community, freshman year, and this lasted through senior year, so I'll start here. It's actually church, Presbyterian Student Association. I was raised PCUSA, very important distinction because wait, hold on. I haven't been to church long. PC. Yes, I was raised PCUSA, but the Presbyterians that are PCA don't like women and gays, so I'm not that one.
Understandable.
Okay.
I grew up United Methodist, not to be confused with Methodist, two completely different things. So I understand the weird sub-denomination, sub-classification under denomination. It's like, oh no, we love these people. We don't love those people. I'm like, that's okay. But it was actually a really good experience for me, which is why it took me a really long time to go on my spiritual journey where I was like, I don't know if I'm a Christian, because my upbringing was like, we had gay pastors. One of my best friends is still a gay minister. We would go to parties and drag shows with our church group, and we weren't like evangelizing. We were just hanging out. You know, we would go and like read the Bible and like sing songs, and then we go get drunk, you know? What can you tell which church this is? Because I think they deserve a little bit of flowers for fostering that kind of environment.
Well, the organization is Presbyterian Student Association. I don't know if they're still around, but it's like a liberal church group. And
this was in Charleston?
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, we had a great time. We had and I would also participate in Presbyterian Student Association at the Citadel, which was a military college that was close by. And so I would go in and it'd be all these sad military boys, and I'd come in my like floral dresses and be like, who's ready to sing to Jesus? And, you know, and then I would hook up with them.
Of course.
So, of course.
Yeah. Well, at least when the drag shows weren't there.
I still think about those guys, but
I'm sure they still think about you.
So that was one of my groups, was PSA. And I have more to say if you need more content.
It is your platform. This is your time to share your journey. As a reformed survivor of the church, I understand the intersection between spirituality and creativity, especially in a person who is young and seeking direction.
Yeah.
But I'm also a degenerate at heart, and I grew up. I grew up drinking the same water as John Waters. So for me, it's like, wow. I'm grateful that in hindsight, having seen where the church set me up and the journey it set me on, it was tumultuous, it was conflicting, but there were very unique highlights. And I've made lifelong friends that I still talk to this day from the church, even though I've left my religious identity far behind. So I'm grateful for all of that. And I'm sure there are plenty of people listening who definitely have some spiritual trauma, I'll call it.
Oh, totally. And, you know, I call it, or not me, I'll attribute this to my mom. And she probably didn't know I would apply this to religion and spirituality. But my mom always said, like, you take the meat and you leave the bone. So like with my upbringing with spirituality and religion, it's like the spirituality was the meat, and I still have that with me. I accept that, I take that. And then the bone that I'm spitting out are the, you know, old ideals about men and women and being broken and needing saving and, you know, all the concept of hell. Anyways, we don't have to get into it.
Well, I don't know why you wouldn't. You just gave us a perfect title for this episode. Take the meat and leave the bone. That's beautiful. That's your next shirt.
Leave the bone. But yeah, that was the first time I really found community, was with PSA. I'm still friends with some of them, actually. They're in the close friends feed on Instagram, so they get the VIP. Yeah.
That's valuable.
We bonded for life.
I mean, you're definitely in a unique form of trench in your life during your college years, during those formative years. But okay, so that's beautiful. So how did that set you up for after college? Like, you've obviously found this space of 3 or 4 years of your life while advancing your education, kind of forming the beginnings of like the person that we all think we're supposed to be at that time in our life. what happens next for Lauren? Like, as far as like community, did they set you up for the next phase? Did you find, like me, and I think a lot of people, when you're in like, say, a high school atmosphere and then you advance to like a collegiate atmosphere, that's like a set 8 years of your life that are like not entirely programmed but expected. And then once you get out of college, here's adulthood. And you're just dropped into the middle of this ocean. Like, what was that journey like for
literally
Lauren?
how you're explaining it? Because I Presbyterian Student Association, bleh, that's a mouthful. I'm just going to say PSA. It didn't exist for me anymore. And I don't even remember all the details, but I think my senior year, the person in charge of it, like, I didn't like them very much. And so I had already stopped going anyways. So it like wasn't, like with anything, it wasn't what it was when it started, kind of thing. I'm sure it's fine again, or I don't know who's running it. But I remember I had some issues with it and I was like, I'm not going to this. I don't think it was anything crazy, but I just, sometimes the vibes are off,
We also grow up, and I think it's challenging to be raised in an environment like church. And speaking from my experience, not all religions, but at least when it comes to like Christian non-Catholic denominations, because I was raised Lutheran before Methodist, I think when you are taught once a week, at least in my environment, to like ask questions like about the scripture, about the practice, about how to live, about how to set an example in all of those versions, it also creates a lot of feedback loop for a person who's like growing up, whose brain chemistry is like constantly combusting and constantly settling, who's also dealing with all these other outside of church like social structures, high school, being a person going to the CVS, getting a part-time job and learning what that's like. And then, well, but speaking from my small town experience, I feel like the thing I had with small town church life was, yes, you saw everyone guaranteed every Sunday, but then when you were out and about your life, you would always run into somebody from church. So it just, for me as a kid, in my experience, it always felt like the church was always around. So I always had to have that example. And I know that's my experience, but I
definitely, I hear where you're coming from, but I hung out with these people as social friends too. And again, we were drinking, hanging out, going to the beach, going to the club.
I love that for you.
Wearing our peplum tops and our chunky necklaces, grinding on each other. Oh
no, we did that too. We just didn't do it at the CVS, where the gal who was also one of the Sunday school teachers was like the general manager.
No, we were doing it at the CVS.
Proud of you. Proud of you.
But yeah, after college, I kind of was very lost because I had already lost that group, the structure of that group. Again, like I said, I'm still friends with some of these people, but I graduated. I had a really hard time finding a job, which is crazy because I worked 3 jobs for the school while I was there, and I couldn't get hired by, like, I wanted the Spanish department to hire me to be just an assistant. I was going to work for the office that I worked at for orientation. They didn't have anything open. I interviewed at hotels, like hospitality groups. I must have applied for so many jobs. Nobody hired me. So I was just kind of very sad working. There's this chunk of my life from May 2011 to March 2012 where I was just sad because I had graduated college, but nothing had changed really. I would just go to the school library and like be there because it felt familiar. And then I would go to work at my front desk job at a hotel, and then I'd go home and I would just be sad. And how I found my community was out of boredom, because I was just going in circles and I was like, well, this sucks. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to take an improv class at Theater 99, which is the place I went to have fun and to watch, because I would go there in college and I would watch these company members do improv, and it was like they were rock stars to me. They're still rock stars to me, And so I did that. I took level 1, changed my life. I loved that class. I met my first real boyfriend sexual partner. Didn't end great. We won't get into that.
Okay.
But like, it was a time.
Right on.
And then from that level 1 class, I decided to try an open mic. It was like, it was a gateway drug, you know? It was
from improv to stand up. It usually goes either way.
Yeah. So I tried an open mic during that level. Like, I don't know what got into me. I think I was just bored and I was like, let me do stuff. Like, I try to think of the reason and I don't know.
Well, don't underestimate the power of boredom, because I think we as creatures forget that those moments, those lulls, those low points, those sometimes they're required. I think for in hindsight, that can be like a parable for people to like justify the journey that they've gone on. Like, you also get a sense, especially if you live long enough to be able to have the perspective on how far you've come, to be able to look back and recognize, you know, Lauren Hope Krass had a baller 4 years. Like, you know, she was living this full character life, which again, college and high school create those small social petri dishes for us to kind of like test our personality at a very young phase. And I think once you remove that, once you take the big fish out of the small pond, put them in the ocean, that's when you get that big kind of like shake to that system of like, what am I? What am I doing? And if you didn't have that level of awareness by also living as much and as having as full a life as you did in college, you wouldn't know there was something for you that needed filling again. And I think it is important that you did have that moment. I say this as a guy, almost virtually identical circumstance. I graduated college. It was a bumble screw college in Long Island. I spent like a year in Long Island longer than I should have. I should have left and gone straight to New York and started like my whole career then. But in hindsight, I needed that time to recognize. Yeah, I needed that time to recognize, recharge, and really prepare myself, because I couldn't imagine what I would have done if I had just gone day 1 graduate to day 2 moving into Queens. Like, I had a partner I was living with at the time. We were both trying to figure out who we were as people, if that was a journey we were meant to go on together, which I didn't have the language for then. And we didn't have you didn't have the language for when you were, you know, doing the receptionist job. But then you found it when you did, you know, bite the bug and go to that improv class.
Yeah, honestly, thank God that I didn't get any of those jobs that I thought I really wanted out of college, because I absolutely could have been one of those people who, and there's nothing wrong with these people, but somebody who got a job on campus and just loved my work husband, work wife, all my friends still on campus, beautiful city. That would have been my life, and I would have been fine, and it would have been lovely. But the fact that stuff kept not working out for me pushed me to try something new. And the new thing that I tried is what led me to my most joyful, abundant life.
And I can't think of a better place to take our first break. So let's do that right now. Thank you, everyone. We will be right back with Lauren Hope Krass, and we're going to learn more about
Krass.
I'm so sorry. We'll be right back after these messages, which are likely going to be from us. So you'll see my face in a second.
Whew. And here I am live editing this commercial into this podcast episode. Hi there, guys, gals, and non-bine pals. We've got a lot of really super cool stuff coming up in July. On July 3rd, we're going to be doing Spark and Heart. That's right. It's our Studio Ghibli themed figure draw at Geeky Tees. And then on July 18th, that's a Friday, we're going to be back at Lawless Brewing Company with Neon Dreams. Join us for a cyberpunk-themed figure draw unlike any other. For all of that information, make sure to head over to nestofriends.org. And if you want to be super special and exclusive, why don't you look at our summer 2025 season pass tickets. They're still available until July 3rd. For the one low price, you get 6 tickets to our next 6 upcoming figure draws, and you can check out the lineup at nestofriends.org. And look, if you're looking for a gift, these make excellent donations that you can gift, not just to people you know, but to people in our community. Make sure to check out your purchase options at Eventbrite to learn more about how you can gift or donate a ticket or a season pass at the Eventbrite link at nestofriends.org when you buy tickets. All right, let's get back to this episode.
Let's just get right back to it, Nesties. We are with Lauren Hope Krass. Thank you, Lauren. We were just talking about your discovery, your first bite into I don't think it was your first bite, but I think it was your first. It sounds like you gave yourself permission to pursue comedy
into that art form. Yeah, it was very first time. I'd only done theater and singing before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So this was like Lauren coming out not just as a performer, but as like her like saying, "No, I have something to say. Here's my voice." What was that journey like?
Oh boy.
Well, we're going to talk about it.
What was the journey like?
Well, tell me this. What was your first time on stage like? Was either stand-up or improv? Like, you took the class. What did that feel like? What did that set you up for? And who was with you on that journey?
Thank you for asking, Sketch. I'd be happy to answer. Who was with me? Oh my gosh. Like triggering people now that I think about it.
Yeah.
Which is also inspiring though, because it's like a lot of times the players that are in these journeys, sometimes they're villains, you know?
Yeah.
But it doesn't take away from the journey. Like somebody who, I don't want to say they're a villain because it's a part of who I am and it shaped me, but somebody that was on that journey for me was the guy I started dating in that level 1 class. And he was the one who cut this, please. I don't want to give him credit for me doing stand up, but he did help me write my first set.
Okay.
I was going to try it anyways. Okay. But like this guy that I had a crush on, it was kind of like maybe I wanted to impress him. I don't know. Again, sometimes we do things for the wrong reasons or weird reasons, like boredom, impressing a guy, but it can lead to more grounded, magical places, you know?
I mean, the inciting moment may not be the moment we expect it to be, especially when we look back with, you know, a more informed version of ourselves. But I'm sure there are many listeners, many members of our community who completely relate to, you know, the right reasons with the wrong incentive, I think is kind of that feeling.
Yeah.
And we don't know it in that moment.
Honestly, and you know, there's plenty of people at Theater 99, Brandy and Greg, they're the founders. We say T99 family. It's not toxic. We really are family. Like my name is scribbled in the green room, like a bunch of places along with everyone else's. Like it's, when I'm on stage at Theater 99 doing improv, it's magic. Like
you've gone back?
I haven't done improv in a long time. I'm trying to get back into it recently though. Don't tell anyone. I don't want to do it for anything besides fun and joy. But now that I have a little bit more time, I'm like, oh, I got to do improv again, because that is where I found my comedy community, was through improv. And a lot of those guys, because a lot of them were guys at the time, they did stand up too. So it was kind of like my crew was like comedy guys, because it's South Carolina, you know, there are only a couple girlies. It was like me and my friend Moe and Sarah, who
I'm gonna say, what's that like? What's comedy like in South Carolina, at least at that time in your life, for anyone who may not know? I'll admit I have no sense of it.
Oh my God.
I'm learning everything from you right now.
It was amazing. I didn't really experience too much sexism until I moved to New York, actually, because you know, sometimes the South is nice. Sometimes people are gentlemanly and kind to women, and it just, sometimes the sexism in the good way works out. You know what I mean?
I won't speak to it.
Everybody was nice to me. Like I was put on every show because I was the girl comedian, you know, and they like, that makes the show more diverse to have a woman on the lineup. So I was on a lot of the shows. I was in the local festivals. I was winning competitions. I was having so much fun. And, you know, it wasn't really until I moved to New York where I was like, oh, like nobody knows me here. We can get into that in a second. But like my community in Charleston was so strong with the improvisers and the comedians. And honestly, a connection to people. This is so fucking cheesy, but some of the people that I value the most that were on that journey then and that are here now, I'm not lying, is the audiences. That feeling of connection with a live audience is when I'm the most me. It's when I'm the most alive. I'm a natural performer, and I still love to be with an audience. Like, it is my passion. I don't have to do stand-up anymore. I'm making a living doing content, but I have 2 spots tonight, you know, like it's what I do to be who I am. And so that's the part that, and it's also, they're kind of like a mirror, you know, it's my self-reflected back, and it's kind of a love fest, and you ride the wave. And so those were the people that were there too. And, you know, now it's different people. But
well, let's get into a little bit of the beginning of your New York journey. You've already touched a little bit on that, and I'm definitely I'm curious when QED got involved, because that's when I think we entered each other's stratospheres. And I do want to tell the story about how you saved one of our figure drawing nights one night.
Yeah, it was like, that was a huge moment for me too. But
it was a huge moment for us. But I want to talk more about like your time from Charleston to New York. I mean,
sure.
you obviously managed to, for lack of a better term, take advantage of an opportunity given your circumstances when you started to enter, you know, being a woman in comedy in Charleston. And, you know, you brought it right back to here's another pond. A smaller fish again. What's that like when you come to New York? What brought you to New York?
Stand up. I wanted to be a stand-up comedian. Like, literally, that's it. Is I moved here with nothing and no job and no financial stability from family or anything. I just knew I had to do stand-up, and that New York City was the place to do it. And then, I mean, a part of this too, if we're being honest, the guy that I fell in love with and dated and ended badly, I just also wanted to be in a different state. I was like, you know what? I need to change. This is, as long as we're in the same state, I might run into them. I might, you know, go back. I don't know, you know? And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do what I said I was going to do and move to New York City and do stand up. And that's what I did.
Well, that's, again, a very inspired, but also I think a very common tale with a lot of creatives. It was usually either a broken heart or tragedy, or just being in the same space for too long. And just as much as you loved it, as much as it was home or safe or the place you found X, at a certain point, just been here too long and we need something else, and we know there's something. So there she goes. Away goes Lauren,
there
off to New York. What was that like when you finally landed in New York? And what was your first show in New York? What was that like?
I mean, I moved to New York July 2014, which is when Cambry signed the lease at QED.
So it was that
meant
timing.
To be. Yeah.
Wow.
It was totally like I think we even compared dates, and like the day she signed the lease was the day I moved here or something. Like, it was meant to be, which I think is another example of spirituality playing a part in my journey. Because I really believe that if you trust the process and surrender and know that you're protected, as long as you're doing what feels right to you, you will be in the right places, you know? So I went from Presbyterian Student Association to Theater 99, and then right to QED. Like, I made the leap not knowing that QED would even exist, and then there it was. And QED was my community. If it wasn't there, I don't know what this story is.
I mean,
you know?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize for you. So on the other side of it, I think Jen and I had just moved into that apartment a block away from QED's spot. Like a year or two before? It was 2013. So we moved into that spot 2013. Yeah. And it was like that following November, I think QED like put up the sign, and we were like, what is this place? Did a Google search, like, comedy venue, weird. And then didn't really, I think we stopped in like once just to like see what the vibe was like, but we were busy freelancers. Obviously, even having a venue down the street, it was like, who has the time, who has the money? And I think for me, it was Kristen's Drink and Draw, Astoria Drink and Draw, RIP to a queen. The Drink and Draw, not Kristen, she's still around.
They still have Drink and Draws at QED.
To my knowledge, that is the case, but I don't know if it's Kristen's Astoria Drink and Draw, because when I moved out here, and we tried to keep that going as I was moving out here via Zoom while things were still like not open. But it wasn't until like a month after we had gotten here that we're like, hey, we've done everything we can. I love you. I'll always love doing this, but I think it's time to like close the doors. And then about a year after that, before Cambry sold QED, she did email Kristen and I asking if she could do a drink and draw. And we were like, that's fine. Just don't call it Astoria Drink and Draw, because that's what Kristen created. If you're making your own thing, you have our blessing. It's your venue.
I think it's called QED Drink and Draw, or
which is great.
Drink and Draw.
Which is great. I'm glad they're still providing that, because for me to kind of like coalesce how this all came together, I was at that point towards like the beginning of the last act of my career as an actor, because I was just getting so burnt out with the audition cycle. The atmosphere was a lot more toxic. Also, like just the industry for auditioning was just so toxic at that point. And I think for me, it was the realization that this is, as much as I want to perform, as much as I wanted to be a performer, I thrived in like small groups, like when I was in high school and when I was in college, because that was more like repertory. You already knew everybody, you knew what you were doing, you knew how to work off each other. But trying to get some schmuck to look up from their phone for 8 minutes while you're doing the sides that they provided for you, that just became disheartening after a while.
Yeah,
it was. And I was really grateful to find QED when the Drink and Draw became like a common present, because I was like, oh, well, here's a thing I haven't done a while. I wasn't making time for myself as an illustrator during like that 8 years of my life. And I think finding that space and finding Kristen's Drink and Draw, and then getting to know the rest of the QED like family through that, it wasn't perfect. I mean, look, it was like any other small pond with a bunch of big fish, but I think it definitely showed me the value of community, because what I learned as a freelancer was, hey, I love going to this thing. When I couldn't go to that thing once a month, I got mad, like at myself. I was like, I need this. And
that's
that was
me.
when
if I'm not performing, I'm not myself.
Right.
And QED, it was the perfect place for if you're new and like you didn't feel like a loser. Like in South Carolina, if I had gone to a place by myself, I would have felt really self-conscious. But something about a walkable New York City borough that's an art space, I mean, you could just go there, and you can just go there by yourself and it's fine.
Oh yeah.
And so that's how I kind of found it. Also, do you want to hear a fun story about QED?
I love hearing fun stories about QED.
Because this technically is how I built my community.
Please.
Is the first time I went there in October, I literally it's funny because like this would drive Cambry crazy now, or even like a year later, but I just like walked up to the bar and I was like, "Are you the owner? Can I produce a show here?" she was like, "Yeah, I guess." She just opened it. Like I was nobody. I was like 23 years old, just like fresh off the boat, just like, I want to produce here. And she was like, "I like your spunk, kid." And then I started producing. And then like very shortly later, I was just temping and we were talking, and she was like, "You were a communication major?" She was like, "I need help doing like PR and marketing." And I was like, "I'm your girl." And then I worked there full time. And so that was like my full-time job for a while. And so I was producing, I was doing everything there for so long, to the point where people would be confused if I was the owner or if Cambry was. I was like, "No, I do not own this place. I'm just here all the time."
Yeah, that happens when you live in the neighborhood. It's that and the bagel shop. You're just there all the time.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that's amazing though. I didn't realize that was the timing of that.
The timing was so great, and I just put my dick on the table and I was like, "Yeah, I work here now." So
that was how I got my first job out of high school, when the only comic book store in the county opened up, and I was just there all the time, and people who were regulars would just ask me where things were, to the point that after me being there for 6 hours a day, they would just like give me $20-$50 a day for like helping out.
So funny.
Yeah. I mean, but there's something to that.
You know what I'm realizing now too is, if we're talking about all my phases, after college, I walked through a lot of doors, metaphorically speaking, asking, can I do something? And they all said no. The fact that as soon as I get to New York, I say, can I do this? And it's like totally not the right way to ask or anything. And the fact that I got a yes, that's a sign you're in the right place.
And
if
I'll
you're
argue,
beating down a door, that's not your door.
That's a great way to put it too. But I'll also argue that's the right time and place for you to do that, because you've already gone through so much. You leaving Charleston, the whole life that you built, just beginning your journey into comedy and exploring your creative voice. And now you're in New York. Cards are on the table. You've got just, your bindle snatch and a heart full of optimism. And you're like, hey, first venue I've seen off the train. Can I produce a show here? And you got a yes on that first hit. That's
it was
inspiring.
Mostly because I was lazy. I was like, I don't want to do anything in Manhattan because I moved to Astoria. I was like, this is down the street. This will do.
Oh, for me, it was the fact that there was a drink and draw in like every corner of Brooklyn going on. But like Jen was like, hey, this is down the street. Can you like leave the apartment for 2 hours? I'm like, yeah, I hear you. And I was like, oh no, this is great. This is exactly what I needed and what I think the community needed. Because at that point in Astoria, even before QED, it had the name of being Actoria. This is before all the nannies.
I remember that's why I picked it.
Right.
Because I was like, oh, artists live there.
Exactly. It was artists and stagehands, musicians and actors. And right before QED, I think that was like the peak of that era of Astoria. And then QED, I think, was this bright beacon at like that peak. And I think the fact that it's still there, kind of like holding on to that identity, blessings to Hannah and thank you, Cambry, for like leading that way. But I do think that had a huge impact on a lot of people's lives. I still get DMs from people who used to go to Astoria Drink and Draw talking about how grateful they were for that time in that space. And I'm like, look, there's still a drink and draw there. Go build that community there. It was you guys as much as me. It wasn't just us, but you can keep that going. And to know that it's still there and that mission is still growing, that makes my heart swell. I do want to talk about, I know we had met before this. I know we knew each other before this, but I do want to talk about our first collaboration, our impromptu collaboration with Astoria Drink and Draw. So, little backstory for anyone who's listening. When I was doing Astoria Drink and Draw, it still very much is Kristen Drake's production. I was very fortunate that one time Kristen had to like not be in town for a drink and draw, and Cambry actually emailed me asking if I would substitute for Kristen. And I didn't even really formally meet her until after I had hosted the one that I subbed.
Oh
yeah, that was the funny thing. Had gone a couple times, but Kristen is very, I'm not speaking out of class, she's very demure. So for me, I didn't even realize she was the host and the producer until after I had been a guest host.
Oh, and that's funny.
And so
you're like, you have a ticket?
Right. Yeah. So when I met her after that, I think it was the following month, I got to tell her how much I love what she was doing, how much it meant to me. And she very quickly was like, hey, do you still want to host? Sure. I have no problem. And for me, again, as I was like slowly getting out of acting, it was a blessing to be able to use my gifts to entertain, to be able to host a space for artists, a place where I don't think they necessarily get entertainment. And also for me to learn what it meant to actually host and like create a space and like make people feel comfortable. But it was also me understanding like the weird atmosphere of what figure drawing and figure modeling was. And very quickly the difference between performers and figure models, which is a whole ecosystem I can spend a separate podcast on. But all that to say, figure modeling can be very flaky and inconsistent. And that's nothing to bash against what happens in a figure model's life or how they prioritize things. but a little too often we would get people who would call out. And sometimes they would at least do us the courtesy of telling us a day before, or at least a couple hours before. And I remember this was probably the third time I was hosting after I had met Kristen. And it was like the doors had to open and then the model said they weren't coming. So we were like in a super last minute panic. I was deciding, do I need to go home and like find something to throw together? Cause I live down the street. Kristen was in Sunnyside, so she couldn't even drive back and she was never going to model. And I think Cambry, if I remember correctly, threw you under the bus.
Yeah, it wasn't her finest moment. I was on the clock. And she was like, "We're sold out. Somebody has to do it." And I was like, "I don't want to take my clothes off." And she was like, "You got to take your clothes off."
I think we came back and said, "You don't have to take your clothes off."
I know. You guys are like, "You don't have to." Yeah, no. Everybody was very chill about you don't have to take your clothes off. But I was feeling brave.
Well, we were grateful for it. I will say that, because what you did do, and I'm going to give you credit for what we do now with Sketch by Sketch and Nest of Friends. What you did do was provide something that I don't think any figure modeling has really done, at least in my time, which was you offered levity in what we were doing. You actually, I remember you like holding each pose, but you were like bantering with the audience.
Oh, I was performing during it. I forgot about that.
You were.
Yeah.
And it was amazing.
I couldn't just be there. I was, can I tell you a joke I remember I did? It just popped into my brain.
Please do.
Somebody was sketching the ottoman, and they said something out loud like, "Oh, I keep messing up how to draw the couch thing." And I said, "Excuse me, my name is Lauren." And they all laughed, and it was like my best joke of the year, and it was for figure modeling.
But that was something that for me as a host, I held on to from that moment forward. And if you'll remember very briefly in the history of figure modeling, you're right. I can see why Cambry said, somebody's got to do it. Because even before then, Kristen was doing like traditional figure modeling. Like at one point we had a full nude model. And I remember that being a very uncomfortable room because it's such a small space and it's in a bar. And there was a creep factor. I remember there was a creep like ogling this woman in the front row. And very shortly after me getting involved, you doing exactly what you did, but with figure modeling for us. I came back to Kristen and I came back really quickly and was like, we need to do that all the time. We need to make sure people know they can feel safe and they can have fun doing it. And I don't want to be like a stuffy, like Brooklyn Drink and Draw or a figure drawing workshop where this is the only space this person can feel empowered to be naked in front of other people. I would much rather people walk away having drawn something fun, because when I go through those sketchbooks, and I have the sketchbook that I drew your night in, I'm immediately like whisked back to the feelings I had that night. Because for drawing, that's a journaling practice. That's a mnemonic response. And for me, that was the inciting moment for what has now become Jen and I's mission with Sketch by Sketch and Nest of Friends, which is really, and I owe a lot of that to you.
So cool.
Yeah. Like, cause you showed us this can be something fun. It doesn't need to be the circumstance of like, oh, here's a different naked body with some drapes on a chaise lounge.
Draw it, bitch.
No, here's this person. Here is this amazing person
with a body.
Right. And you're showing us who you are inside and out. And I'm sure that's why I still get DMs from people from Astoria Drink and Draw talking about how they miss what we did, because that was what we ended up doing before we left, when we were still doing it live. I mean, we were twice a month. And one of those nights we had to give to Gloria because we had a drag queen who was also a Broadway seamstress, and she always turned out a look, and she loved it. And the audience loved it. And she was as engaged with them as you were that night. And that has become the mission statement for what we're doing. We get stilt walkers, we've had drag artists, we've had comedians. We try to get interesting people who pose. Even our cosplayers have learned to find their voice by engaging with the audience while they're posing in the middle of the pose.
How cool. All because I was a little uncomfortable half naked. And
I'm
I had
grateful.
to talk it out.
I'm grateful. So that's how our community like coalesced.
Beautiful.
And I think I became part of yours, and hopefully you became part of ours.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're the godmother of Sketch by Sketch.
Oh my
for
God.
all of that.
It's an honor. I'm
We're
so
grateful.
proud of you.
Oh, thank you. We're proud of you. I like I said, you're the best part of my feed whenever I see any of your content. And
oh my God, thank you.
I do miss seeing your stand-up videos, because I had the pleasure of being in the room when you would do any of your hosting, and you were always the light of every mic.
Thank you. No, I'm gonna get into posting stand-up clips. I'm just nervous because my audience likes the try-ons, and I'm like, will they like stand-up? I don't know.
I
should just suck it up and post them.
I mean, look, I think your audience would love to see all the shades of you. And look, if there's ones who don't, whatever, they've got your other try-ons, they've got your other content. But let's come back to present Lauren. So that was obviously where we were in New York. Gosh, that feels like that was almost a decade ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a decade.
It was literally a decade ago.
Literally a decade ago. I think I did that my figure drawing debut in 2015. I still get the memories for it. So
congratulations, and happy anniversary.
Thank you. Happy anniversary to you too.
Thank you. Yeah. But yeah, no, so Lauren goes from walking off the train into the comedy club, like marking off figure modeling star and burgeoning comedian. What's the journey like from there to now? And maybe now is a good time to take a break, because that was a good mid journey. So
sure,
we're going to come back with more of Lauren Hope Krass in the present. And thank you all for being here. This is Guest of Friends. Please enjoy this word from our sponsor, which is very likely me. So merch. That's right, everybody. We've got merch. If you need Guys, Gals, and Non-Bine Pals tank tops, tees, and hoodies, don't worry, because we've also got fanny packs. Head over to nestofriends.org, head to the store in our online shop, and see all of the goodies that you can wear and feel good about wearing, because you're supporting your favorite nonprofit and podcast at the same time when you do it. Head over to nestofriends.org, click on the store button, see all the cool stuff that we've designed for you just in time for Pride and for all of your everyday carry needs. Okay, between QED and now. Okay, we're just going to get back into it, guys, gals, non-bine pals, nesties one and all. We're back with Lauren Hope Krass. Thank you all for being here. And we're ready to talk about the journey to present day Lauren. So we've found QED. We've obviously you've fostered this community. I know the pandemic had a lot for a lot of people at QED. Like, it hit us hard, because for many of us, for me, twice a month, that was where I would go to do a story, a drink and draw. And I know there were plenty of regular homespun produced shows going on between the open mics and like all of like the regular screenings that were happening. What was that time like for you? I knew you were taking off at this point too. Like you were starting to take rooms, and weren't you just beginning to tour at this time?
I had been touring colleges since 2017, but my local career wasn't really doing much. I mean, I was happy. I was at QED. I was working at QED. I was traveling to do colleges, comedy clubs here and there, but very lightly. And when the pandemic hit, I just got creative, because I also was very serious about the pandemic. Like, I was wearing masks. I would be mad if you didn't wear a mask. Like, I lost a friend at the beginning of it. And then my grandma passed away, not of COVID, but during COVID. And I couldn't go to the funeral. So I took it all very seriously, but I still understood the importance of community. So I definitely did a lot of Zoom stuff. I performed on Zoom a lot. And then I would do what you guys experienced, where I would have people come to my backyard and sit across a long table from me. And that's what we would do. I would have friends come and just sit there. And of course, they were all friends from QED. Cambry and I stayed in touch during that time, of course. And I would go on walks in the park. I remember after I think after 2 weeks after my second shot was when you're kind of like allowed to do stuff again. And I started to perform in the park. So I did pretty well, all things considered, throughout the pandemic, because I also I was doing remote day jobs before it was cool. Like I already had a remote customer service day job that I just did through the pandemic. And so that kind of kept me sane a little bit as well. But I mean, from QED to now, I mean, career-wise, I was touring cruise ships, colleges, comedy clubs, and I love the audiences, but I did not love the travel. Okay. I'm so done traveling for stand-up. I am not doing it again until I'm famous, until I can have a tour bus with my face on it or fly first class. I'm not doing it. I am so happy making funny videos and doing my little podcasts and doing stand-up locally that it's going to take a lot for me to have to go back on the road and tour because it was so hard on me for a number of reasons. But community-wise, that's such a good question. I'm like, who are my friends right now? One of my closest friends right now is actually a new friend. Her name's Jessie Jollis. She's an influencer on Instagram, and the content she makes is so joyful and authentic. And she used to work at the same media company that I was at for a little bit, Betches Media. And we both have similar histories and skill sets. And also, I was born 2 days before her. So we also have that going, like it's all these cute little synchronicities that we have.
What's your birthday again?
September 8th, 1988.
What does that make her, Jen?
Virgo.
Yeah.
I know best.
Yeah, you do.
I do. And
I'm not arguing it.
And so does
This is
Jessie.
me on camera, not arguing it.
But
I'm not going to gaslight a Virgo.
I will. No, you don't want to. You won't come out of that alive.
Exactly.
But my community really turned out to be a lot of female comics, female stand-up comics. So female stand-up comics and queer, gay, male comics. Like that's kind of my circle. I'm not really close friends. And I'm not a dude hater, but I just don't really connect with the male comics of New York very much.
We call that misandry now. You can sound fancy.
Yeah, I mean, I dabble in misandry, but I try not to let it take me over because everybody's different.
You just misandry on the weekend when it's cool, like everyone else does.
Yeah, I take breaks. But my close circle, it's like girls and gay guys, who have done stand-up or improv. And like I met a lot of them at QED. Some of them are from Theater 99 that live here now, and we're still friends. Actually, a couple. So, I've been on this. I've taken a lot of my community with me.
It sounds like you have your own like. I know this to be true of you. You're very charismatic. You have this magnetism about you that I think is infectious and inspiring.
Make me sound like a cult leader sketch.
Well, hey, look, whatever you want to do, there's plenty of life.
Charismatic.
But I think having known you and having seen you even from as near and as far from our time in QED and even from out here, being able to catch up vicariously, parasocially through your social media presence, I see something that I don't think people online see unless they knew you from Theater 99 or from QED, which is that this is who you are. You are this
Thank you.
Very authentic voice. And I think you have a good sense of who you are that even people offline don't necessarily know how to own for themselves.
Yeah.
And I've like I said, you've inspired us. Like just that one moment at Astoria Drink and Draw changed the whole trajectory of my career and what I thought my mission in life was to be. I thought I was supposed to be just some other white guy actor writer who would make his money just slapping his name on things because he thought he was original when he was just regurgitating the same stuff. And then here you are, like, doing us a huge favor last minute. I'm now finding out you were bullied by your boss to do, but you also showed us something valuable, which is these models are people, and you're not just drawing them for the sake of fulfilling some weird need for yourself. You can also make a memory by sharing and collaborating. Like, drawing a person who shares and like is their authentic self is a collaboration.
I agree. That's why I love my audiences. It's like they are an entity, they're real. It's us, it's each other, you know.
And I think for you in this third, call it the current act of Lauren, I think it sounds like you have found a way to bring all of your communities with you to be part of the journey with this audience, which is also your community. Sorry, I'm getting a little.
You're getting drunk?
Yeah, I'm getting a little dry. Forgive me.
Oh, you're good. No, I know it's something probably like celebrities. I'm not saying I'm a celebrity, but I'm sure it's something celebrities often say where they're like, oh, it's not possible without my fans, or like, we're all, and it's just like, no, literally my audience is my community. It's plus size women, around my age, you know, like they are my community. And a lot of it is online, but I like what it sounds like you guys are doing at Nest of Friends, where you're like cultivating in-person spaces where people can get together and be in the energy, but also online, because it's important.
Well, I think that's the thing I think about when I was like in high school, and it's like, I was lucky enough to find, like, for me at the time, like theater, because I was just a kid who liked to draw in a sketchbook from like middle school on. And I realized really quickly when I went to like a high school art class, how just boring and droll, because these are high schoolers who are drawing. Like, they're not, bless their heart, if they are an artist, it's so early in that journey. And for many of them, it was really just a class where they could fuck off. And I fed into that really quickly. And as soon as I found theater, it was something that engaged all of my stimuli. But what was the thing that kept me there was being able to do that with other people. Like, being able to talk about this idea that was in my head and trying to draw it out, and then trying to build it out, and then trying to see people like dance on it or paint with it. That was like the beginning of like the Lego blocks that would stack into the person that I was building.
That's life, baby.
Right. Exactly.
That's the sauce.
Exactly.
Of all of this.
And I think for me, the thing that I was missing when I went to college and when I went into like my professional theater career was like that immediate gratification. Like, you have to spend so much time like performing an idea of who you are before you can even get accepted. Once you get accepted, are you doing it for them? Are you doing it for yourself? Are you doing it together? There's so many uncertainties in navigating adult spaces, especially as a creative. And I think what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing from you, especially online, is the reclaiming of like, no, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is what I'm providing for an audience who clearly is looking for it. Like, your following is not a void. Like, these people do resonate with you as much as I do, because I'm blessed enough to know you. But like, these people resonate with what you're doing, and they see you for who you are. And I hope that I can at least offer my 2 cents and say, yeah, no, this is Lauren Hope. Like, she is very much this, like this, you're such a lovely talent. And I say that not just because of who you are on stage, because that is also who you are as a person one-on-one. Like, you're never trying to do a bit. You just kind of are.
I am the bit.
You're effortless, like, in that. And I think that's something that is worth celebrating. And I hope your community continues to celebrate that about you. So
thank you, Sketch.
No, thank you, Lauren. This has been a lovely conversation.
So much.
Well, it means a lot to us. And I would love to this is going to come out later in June. Is there anything you want people to know about you, what you're doing, where they can find you, how they can support you, where they can find your community if they want to be part of it?
Oh my gosh, if you want to join my niche community, it's Belly Laughs. It's patreon.com/Lauren Hope Krass. It's only $2 a month.
Okay.
And I have weekly episodes where I talk about my mental and physical wellness journey in a funny, positive way. I have a lot of guests and experts on where we talk about bodies and we get weird. And I would say the target demo is going to be the girlies, but I do have 2 men who listen, and I love that. I love Steve and I love Kai, and they love the show.
Shout out to Steve and Kai if you're listening now.
Listen, that's the thing is, like, I do have a target demo, and it's fat women, okay? But I'm funny all the time, so if you want to learn about fat women, or you want to hang out with me on the Patreon, like that's where my people are, because those are the people who like okay, I'm giving you $2 a month, let's do this, so that's where the real ones are. But you're still a real one if you follow me on Instagram, Lauren Hope Krass, TikTok. I post all the same content there, and then I'm on YouTube now. I'm gonna be experimenting with more long form content in the future, so subscribe to my YouTube if you want to keep up with that. And then that's honestly really it. Like, if you want to come see a show, if you're in New York City, send me a DM, check my Instagram stories. I usually post when I have shows. So,
well, guys, gals, non-bine pals, this has been Lauren Hope Krass. We have been Nest of Friends. We are eternally grateful. If you want to see the prompt that Lauren is going to give me to draw for our paid tier, make sure to head over to our Substack to see what I draw based on Lauren's prompt. And if we'll have an unedited version of this conversation with all of its, I know, I can't wait. All right there. So make sure to follow us at Nest of Friends. You can find all the details at nestofriends.org. You can also follow us on Instagram if you don't like to do that level of typing, or if the search bar scares you for whatever reason, just head over to the gram and find us there. Link in the bio. And for all of our free content listeners, we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Guest of Friends was created and produced by Jennifer Martina and Sketch Williams, hosted by Sketch Williams, featuring music composed by Libby Ward with lyrics and vocals provided by Jennifer Martina. Our cover art was created by Mitra Katsuyoshi. Guest of Friends is brought to you by Nest of Friends. Our mission as Nesties is to provide the kind of third space our world deserves through creativity, with community, with craft and care. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment below on Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, and everywhere you're experiencing this podcast so that more people can discover it and help create a better world, one act of creativity with kindness at a time.
Join Nest of Friends as we just like friends, become best of friends on Guest of Friends.